Welcome to episode 61 of Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. My name is Fizzpatrick, and for those of you who have just come in from the Gold Rush show, welcome. Because we're going, take me out to the Brawl Game, take me out to the Allen Park Ice Rink, because it's the weather venue for the show. Take me out to the ice rink. There's no ice here, but thankful for that. I'm not freezing because we're not in the ice age and that. We are here at the ball game. We are here because it's the indoor brawl game at the ballpark. Here's the story of this particular card and this particular series of matches. As we go to Take Me Out to the Brawl Game. My abridged version of singing of aside, this was a fun show. This was a very interesting show. And this was a show that showcased the spectacle and insanity that is Southern Tier Wrestling, my local regional independent wrestling promotion. Quick word once again, like I said last episode, or for those of you who may not be aware, while I know many of the wrestlers and people who run Southern Tier Wrestling, they do not influence the opinions that I have on these particular shows. These are solely my own, much to either their dread or confusion or joy, depending on how I particularly feel about a match. Because once again, I'm just basically a person that goes to these shows with my mom, and we have ourselves a really fun time. You know, the bountiful insanity. I'm not looking at this from a pure wrestler's perspective. I'm looking at this from a general consumer fan's perspective on how I look at these particular shows and how they draw. Now, this show drew very well for an independent wrestling show. It drew over about 300 plus people, considering especially since this was the rain venue. You see, the Thunder Gods and John Kennedy had another tussle. Originally, this show was supposed to be booked at Dietrich Park, which is a ballpark, an extremely famous historic ballpark in Jamestown, New York. Now, I had repeatedly said to them, and as in STW management, if you mess up the grass, then the people who run the ballpark are literally going to Jason Voorhees you. And you're going to end up as a lawn ornament. Well, the pieces that they find of you, that is. So I made sure to be very specific about that because I've been to a couple of Dietrich Park Jamestown Jammer games. And I happen to be a member of the Chautauqua Sports Hall of Fame, and they happen to be the people that run the ballpark. So this show may or may not have been caused by the interventions of a certain wrestling podcaster saying to both sides basically in a Looney Tunes-like fashion, oh, please, will you two talk to each other already? And talk they did. And it ended up with a show that was, quite frankly, a really, really good show. I'm going to spoil ahead of time. I know usually Wacky World of Wrestling shows tend to be a bit more emphasis on the negatives of the world of professional wrestling, but Southern Tier Wrestling shows tend to not be that. If there's a legitimate criticism, I will point it out. And it's nothing personal, but it's something that I feel needs to be said in that particular situation because I feel that the situation can improve from that. Learning experience and ways to improve. And Southern Tier Wrestling shows tend to improve with every single show. Little things, little details, little things like matches, and the wrestlers themselves improving because they've got a place to train up in Buffalo. So, what was this card like? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, a special guest segment, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 matches once again. And, well, we have ourselves a jam-packed card here today. So let's get the show on the road with our first inning match. Finn to win, the dreaded Mako, and Vinny Moon, who is learning his Aquarian PhD degree because he's having to handle this destructive shark wrestler. Well, he thought the Mako was the most destructive thing he was going to have to be dealing with tonight. That was before the building began to start shaking. From the chorus of boos from our usual suspect, the one, the only, the massive master of the furnace of heat himself, Super Beast. bellows like a steam train engine whistle to the crowd and screams at them that his champions are here. No, not the family, his hired goons. The Nachi Mafia. I've talked about the Nachi Mafia before on Wacky World of Wrestling with their debut at Fast Times at Faulkner High, which I felt was one of their strongest debuts I've ever seen from a tag team ever. They faced off against Gavin Glass, beat him to a pulp, and then tried to take on Bill Collier and Vince Fowler in a tag match main event. That was the second to last match on the card. I was very impressed by these two wrestlers, especially considering the fact that they debuted only last year. They understand their roles perfectly. Big, bruising, threatening, scary individuals who will turn you into literal pasta sauce and will stir you until you become a fine puree to dump onto a bunch of pasta. The Nachi Mafia are two wrestlers, Frank and Don Nachi. Frank and Dan Nachi, who have just literally turned you into literal tomato paste. They are hard-hitting, bruising, heavyweight wrestlers, which is a bit of an oddity in this territory because most wrestlers you see are usually cruiserweights. Cruiserweights or, middleweight guys. Not heavyweights. Heavyweights have been something that has been a key agenda of redevelopment in this particular area, since many of the heavyweight wrestlers that used to wrestle in this area 10, 15 years ago have either been promoted upwards into some of the bigger promotions or have retired. So guys like the Nachi Mafia are very important to the territory because, you need heavyweight wrestlers. You need a good balance of cruiserweights, heavyweights, hybrid wrestlers, technicians, comedy wrestlers to make a territory really interesting. And this first match, well, it was as interesting as you can get because it was a role reversal of the particular of the standard formula for Finn to win matches. Mako was the one who was in peril most of the time as he was literally being turned into fish food by the Nachi Mafia. It was a situation where it was like, wow, this is fantastic. Another match that also showcased Vinnie Moon's skills as a fiery come-from-behind babyface. Again, face in peril for both Mako and Vinnie Moon, while the Nachi Mafia showcased their skills of just destroying everything in their vicinity. It was a very, very great way to open the show, with Super Beast bellowing at the fans, trying to get them to react to everything he was doing, and him trying to, once again, as usual, throw a literal kitchen sink of cheating to try and get the Nachi Mafia to win the shiny things, the Sovereignty Wrestling Tag Team Championships, away from Finn to win. This did not work, unfortunately, as miscommunication by the Nachis causes Vinnie Moon and Mako to be victorious. This was a really fun match, with a lot of comedy elements, but with also some serious wrestling in the latter half of the matches. The opening part of the show was really fun and lighthearted. The second half was serious and dire as the threat of the Nachi Mafia loomed over Vinnie Moon and Mako. Overall, once again, a great killer tag match from Finn to win. 2 for 2, guys. Let's go with the next. The next show after this is Midway Mayhem. It's going to be really interesting to see how Vinnie Moon does in that particular show. After this, we have ourselves our old school wrestling classic WWF TV taping match from the 1970s. The Reinforcer Andrew Anderson faces off against Marco Styles. Marco Styles, for those of you unfamiliar, is a guy who is a Chicago indie wrestler. Now, this was basically a traditional 1970s, 1980s WWF style house show match, which was a very interesting experience. It was old school grappling, it was throws, it was suplexes, it was traditional getting the heel heat away from the crowd, as Andrew basically pointed out to his opponent. These people tend to react to that kind of stuff, and they do. Marco very quickly set the tone of him being the big bruising heel, where Andrew Anderson, for the first time in his STW career, was the babyface. With a bit of an unusual situation. Also, the first time that my mother got to see Andrew Anderson wrestle, because there'd been something of a bit of a curse involving Andrew Anderson and my mother actually seeing him in a wrestling match. First time I saw him was at a Roddy Piper Legends show in 2013, where he literally made Tatanka's eyes go as big as dinner plates as he jumped from the second rope to do a diving leg drop, literally flying like a refrigerator with wings, and almost breaking his hip on the other side of the ring. Thankfully, making sure that his knee didn't hit the other side of the ring as he flew literally like a refrigerator with wings. Thankfully, there was no top rope shenanigans this time, otherwise I would have had to have literally caught my mother's heart leaping out of her mouth from the pure shock of somebody as big as Andrew Anderson jumping from the ring like that. Overall, this was a solid, fun 1970s style WWF match. Would be not out of place on that card, which is unsurprising considering the fact that these two are trained as old school grapplers, which fits this local market and the Allen Park Ice Rink very well. About the venue itself, the Allen Park Ice Rink is a classic venue for pro wrestling events. In Jamestown, it has a very long history of hosting pro wrestling events that most people who are general people have never heard of because of advertising issues. This was actually the first time that Southern Tier Wrestling has run in this venue, and I gotta say, why is this not the home venue for STW shows? Because it's fantastic. It's a nice venue, it's well lit, it's relatively cool, it's not freezing, it's an indoor soccer stadium that recently got renovations for lighting. It's a venue that has sort of the classic touches of a 1970s, 80s venue with all of the old school soda signage around it, but also has modern amenities. It's got bleachers, which is definitely a plus for me, and it was only $10 for a general admission ticket. Like I said, if you want to go to a wrestling show with your family, a local indie show is usually a better alternative price rise than a WWE house show, because house shows like that can go into the hundreds of dollars. You're going to be spending over $500 to go to a WWE house show, where instead you could be supporting a local independent wrestling show, bring the entire family along, and hey, you only get to spend like what? If you go to the front row, you can spend $20 a person. That not only supports the local workers that are working these shows, and also supporting them by buying their merch, which they have plenty of to sell. That's a no-brainer to me, supporting local businesses. Of course, you also want to be doing your checkups because a lot of these people are unknown, so check Facebook, check Twitter, check your facts, check your information about these local independent wrestling shows. Make sure that these people are properly trained. Make sure that it's a nice, safe environment for your family. As I've always stated, you do your research, you do your homework, and you end up going to a really good show. That's what I did with STW. I waited a whole year before showing up at a show. Of course, I had to spend money on fixing my attic roof, so that was something that delayed me for going to a wrestling show for a while, but for a whole year. But the timing was perfect to go to STW Gold Rush 2017. I saw that there were a bunch of local wrestlers who were really good on the card. I saw there were a few unknowns that I didn't have any idea about, like Brandon Thurston, and I went, okay, let's see how they do. And to no one's surprise, it was a really fun show. So, after our classic old school match, we have match number 3, which is yet another appearance of the dreaded Super Beast, this time with the family, Rob Sweet and Landlord. Something I didn't mention on the last show was that they actually did an elimination spot where Landlord was accidentally eliminated by Rob Sweet, possibly starting a little bit of a story there. Anyway, are you ready for to have HE double hockey sticks literally freeze over? No, we're not at the ice arena this time. Are you folks ready for the phenomenon that is Mikey Every Night as a babyface? Yes, folks, it has happened. Pigs are literally flying in the sky as we speak, as we talk about Mikey Every Night and Dave Waz, also known as Reza Ellswood, the Unbookables with Jonathan Ashe, facing off against the family. The Unbookables are the baby faces in this situation, which once again is yet another weird sign that we are not in an alternative timeline and things have gone like a doll painting. I'm expecting a scream or two to happen at this point, but it's a really good thing that it did. I really like Mikey Every Night and Elwood as a baby faces. It also helps that the story was really good. Super Beast has somehow managed to command power in this situation for some reason, and has assigned his own special guest referee, the dreaded manager of Areza Elwood himself, Tupton Sinclair. Topher Sinclair. Who was the former manager of Ray Ellswood? I guess they got into a disagreement as to which hipster copy chain that they liked better, and, well, the sinister bald look definitely accompanies the former manager of Ray Ellswood, as he was the special guest referee. It was a really interesting, great comedy match that was also somewhat serious and got sympathy for the Unbookables in this situation. Every Night is a phenomenal babyface, to people's surprise. I had not seen Every Night as a babyface at this point until this match, and I was really impressed. I was like, why didn't you guys turn him face sooner? I mean, because basically Every Night, while he's a detestable heel, he can really provide a lot of value to a match by being the mentor wrestler, or, in this particular case, he was the guy that faced off against the Family. The heat was off the charts because the Family are one of the more hated teams in Southern Tier Wrestling. And the Unbookables, wow, really impressive first showing for this crew. And while obviously we have to see from here as to what exactly the Unbookables are going to do in Southern Tier Wrestling. But it seems as though they have a dynamic of being face in one city, but also being heels in another, as we'll find out at the Midway Mayhem show. But overall, this was a fantastic match. My sides were splitting from the laughter of the comedy spots, as well as the seriousness of the situation, of the desperation that the babyface team was trying to win with a crooked referee. I'd assumed that Super Beast had used his Albanian cloning contacts to clone Elwood's manager, but apparently it seems as though the Topher Sinclair did betray Elwood. Like I said, probably a conflict over some vegan hipster restaurant of some kind. Anyway, that was a great match. The match after that was a really big surprise as well. So, let me introduce you folks to Matt Ratcliffe. That is Ratliff. Matt Ratcliffe is a jiu-jitsu practitioner who is converted to pro wrestling. He is a Grapplers Anonymous student. His first match is against the dreaded Ryan Cassidy. I say dreaded because Ryan Cassidy his attitude has gotten even worse since the mattress match, as I talked about last episode. And he feels as though that he should be put in the bigger matches, aka he's going down the egomaniac push of pro wrestlers. So what happens in this situation is that Ratcliffe wins this match via disqualification, which is not usually something you see very often in STW, because Ryan Cassidy got aggressive, pushed the referee out of the way, and got disqualified. As you do. And then Ryan Cassidy assaulted STW officials with a chair after being sent out, and then he got sent out of the arena by the STW owner, Randy Gray. So we have ourselves a management versus a wrestler storyline. How very WWE-ish. It seems as though that this is interesting to me because it has the potential to be good, and it also has the potential to blow up in a direction that I don't think people are expecting it to. See, Ryan Cassidy, for the longest time in STW, was a babyface. And then he turned heel with Cloudy and has been this anachronistic destroyer of hopes and dreams. And he has embraced that selfish generation style character rather well. Tries to choke out Matt Ratcliffe. Matt Ratcliffe literally throws him across the ring like a rag doll. Ratcliffe, for comparison's sake, is about the size of Daniel Garcia and Brandon Thurston. He's not a big guy, but good jeez, he's strong. Like, chucks Wayward Cassidy like a rag doll. Really made a great first impression considering how young he is as a pro wrestler. And then Cassidy himself was his usual Cassidy's really starting to find himself as both a great heel wrestler and as a potential babyface anti-hero. See, that's the problem with a 40-figure storylines versus a wrestler. You better hope that that wrestler can maintain his heelishness. Otherwise, he's going to start getting massive crowd support. Because again, we have this sort of era thing going on at this point where it seems like it's the cool thing to stand up to authority, a la a Vince McMahon versus Steve Austin. And I think that they may be aware of this, and they're trying to make Cassidy as villainous as possible. And he assaulted plenty of STW officials and referees with a chair. So, yeah, that was interesting. Also, I want to also point out that they also did an opening segment where STW management, which was the principal owners of STW, they came out to the ring out of character and basically apologized because we had another cancellation. In this case, the Nasty Boys canceled at the last minute and were replaced by the Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine, which is in this next segment. They did a special in-ring appearance and raffled off a guitar for the STW crowd. Was a really nice segment. It was a really good intermission segment to, make the crowd happy. I did get the impression that I was like, so this is what standing in front of a firing squad at the Mexican border feels like. Because they just kind of gritted their teeth and just said, we apologize for the cancellation. We don't like it when that happens. We might make sure that these things are done up in advance. And again, they were very professional. I really liked that opening segment. It was a very professional segment by STW management. And, you have to be professionally honest in this day and age in pro wrestling. You cannot be a carny. Hate to say it, you can't be an old school carny. You have to be professionally honest with people because you're working in front of a general audience that is very aware of what professional wrestling actually is. It's basically sporting theater and entertainment. And they're taking their kids to these shows, and obviously they're expecting certain wrestlers to show up. Of course, you also have to worry about the dreaded card subject to change. But again, professionalism. So yeah, the special in-ring appearance by Honky Tonk Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And it was a fun segment. So, after the disqualification match and the segment, there was then intermission. I got to talk to some of the wrestlers. Now, I got a Nachi Mafia T-shirt because, again, was a really, really great match by them, and I was very impressed the first time that they showed up at STW. I picked up a Mikey Every Night Daddy Yeah Productions T-shirt, and then I got a Vinnie Moon shirt as well because my mother was cold because we had forgotten to get jackets. I had brought my jacket over, but she had forgotten to get hers. So, and because the venue is somewhat of an ice arena, it is a bit cold, but was able to get a couple shirts for her. So I got her the Every Night shirt and the Moon shirt for her because I think let's see, it was in June, so it was we're just celebrating the summer. And, got to say hi to the wrestlers. And I like intermission. I like, watching the crowd. I got to, sit up in the bleachers away from the cold and get to see pro wrestling. Pre-shows and intermissions are oftentimes the times that I really enjoy these shows the most, where I get to see, everything going on around me and people watching. And it's always really fascinating to me just to see the reactions that people have and who shows up at these pro wrestling shows. And how the wrestlers react to the crowds and all of that. And then the next match that happened was the match that literally blew the roof off the place, because we have ourselves a triple threat match. Mike Skyros, the Moonlight Sun, None of a Kind Anthony Gaines, and the destroyer of everything, Terrell Kenneth. I've talked about all three individuals throughout this run of Southern Tier Wrestling shows over the past couple of years. How impressed I've been by their wrestling skills, their development as three-dimensional wrestlers, and their ability to now be booked at bigger places than Chautauqua County, New York. What exactly do we have besides our Lucy Desi Museum and grapes? So Mike Skyros first showed up at Rise of the Cobra 2017 and an opening match, 6-man prove-it match where he won. And Mike Skyros since then has really proven himself to be a great wrestler in Southern Tier Wrestling and in ESW and in the places he's being booked in New York State. This is a guy who survived the implosion of his territory. You know, he was a part of the territory up in Syracuse and Rochester that kind of imploded. He was a part of 2CW, and it imploded just as he was starting to figure himself out as a pro wrestler. And he's figured himself out again as this hybrid wrestler who can deadlift Terrell Kenneth, who is by no means small, and have phenomenal match after phenomenal match. If you need a hybrid wrestler, you can do no worse or better than Mike Skyros. And the only other guy that matches him as far as, his hybrid style is Anthony Gaines. Anthony Gaines, None of a Kind, the guy that you might remember as a person who got pounced out of a ring by the small cruiserweight wrestler known as Ace Romero. No, he's not tiny. If I called him what his actual size is, he probably might rip my arm off. Much like a Wookiee would. Anthony Gaines has had a very interesting last year. He ended up with a knee injury at a Smash Wrestling card. He's worked his way back from that injury and is starting to get bigger and better bookings. And he has just found himself as a wrestler, this unpredictable ball of insanity, who can literally become a Goliath in a match when he looks like a David. And that's what's so cool about Anthony Gaines, and something that my mother really likes about him as a wrestler. She likes that kinetic ball of pure insanity who will be willing to do anything to win a wrestling match. And you put those two together, and then you add the third element. Since Gold Rush 2017, a show I've referenced quite a bit on these last couple of episodes, one of the first wrestlers that my mother noticed who wasn't a big-name wrestler was Terrell Kenneth. When she saw him wrestle in a 6-man tag match, 6-man or 8-man tag match, and she looked and saw this wrestler, and she basically tapped on my shoulder and then pointed at him and said, "Him." He was one of the first wrestlers that my mother really seriously pushed to her friends and said, this kid, because remember, there's a pretty big age gap between Kenneth and my mother. She basically pointed out to her art friends that this person's a really good wrestler, and if they knew people who were pro wrestling promoters, that they should book this guy in the Ontario area. And particularly to her Canadian friends, some of whom are former professional wrestlers up in Nova Scotia. And she basically messaged her Facebook friends and basically started talking about how good this wrestler is and how safe he works, and that he can work with the big guys, he can work with the little guys. And Terrell then had a seminar with Ethan Page at Graps Anonymous, and then he starts getting booked for Alpha One. And all of a sudden, all the lower tier indie promotions in Canada want this guy on their shows. And Terrell Kenneth is as good as advertised. He's the destroyer of everything. He's a guy who you can put with your smallest wrestler and he'll make it look good. And you can put him with your biggest wrestler and he'll make him look good. but he can also make himself and his opponent look great together. You want to do is you want to build up both people. You want to build up the destruction factor of your heels while also maintaining the fact that your baby faces are really good wrestlers. This triple threat match had a bit of everything. Higher spots, higher risk, flips, destruction, and, well, a run-in by another wrestler. See, Anthony Gaines' chances of winning this match were significantly lessened after the betrayal by a certain Rebel. Jet Rebel has formed an alliance with Sebastian Braun, a person who I've talked about beforehand. He's a big, bruising, intimidating wrestler who looks like a slasher movie villain. And my goodness, he has begun to relish in being the big evil guy who literally lawn darts people with his moves. And Anthony Gaines has become his first target because Rebel and Braun have formed an alliance. The alliance to destroy Gaines-a-Mania. And they interfered in this match, but thankfully, because it's a triple threat match, it was not a disqualification. Braun destroys Gaines, and Skyros is left dealing with the unenviable position of having to try and destroy Kenneth once again. Skyros has beaten Kenneth before. Unfortunately for him, it's in a triple threat match situation, and he's been worn down by Anthony Gaines' insane high-flying offense. And Terrell Kenneth takes advantage of it. He does the Yeet Bomb and finishes off Skyros for the victory. I should make note of this. This was a number one contendership match as well. So, Terrell Kenneth has just become the number one contender for the Southern Tier Wrestling Heavyweight Championship against Bill Collier. Yes. The awesomeness of this match is just now suddenly dawned upon most of you. Why? Because Bill Collier and Terrell Kenneth have fought before in ESW. Terrell Kenneth and Bill Collier are capable of having a fantastic match. And that match is set for the Sherman Show. August 3rd, Unstoppable Forces are going to clash at Sherman Days. Big Time Bill Collier versus Terrell Kenneth. And I'll talk about this on the next episode, but my goodness. But Kenneth has got some more destroying to do at Midway Mayhem, which we'll talk about next time. But to say the least, that this match was one of the best triple threat matches I've ever seen. And this is someone who has seen plenty of triple threat matches in my time as a wrestling fan. I've only been watching wrestling since 2009, but I've seen plenty of triple threat matches. This match was cohesive. It was consistent. The three wrestlers knew each other very well. They faced off against one another before. There was a story here. And it all worked out. Terrell Kenneth is now the latest monster that Bill Collier has to try and destroy. But will he be destroyed by the destroyer of everything instead? Mike Skyros, meanwhile, is embroiled in the Anthony Gaines-Sebastian Braun feud, as well as the feud with another wrestler that we'll be talking about more in depth next time, with the next match that Skyros is booked for in Midway Mayhem. Overall, a really fun match. A really great match. Followed by another one. Yes, we're going 2 for 2, folks, because we have our first defense of the STW Fireheart Championship. Vince Valor versus Brandon Thurston. Brandon Thurston got a Super Beast-like reaction from the crowd as he waved his patron saints of professional wrestling flag through the ring. And this was a classic technical grappling affair that with a large amounts of reversals, counters, and attempts to break each other's arms off. This was your classic Valor Thurston match. Valor bringing in a kitchen sink worth of technical wrestling skills along with his ability to generate power offense, and Brandon Thurston attempting to rip people's limbs off. That classic combination of just pure out-and-out joy. This match was a hard-hitting, serious match, And you can really see that Brandon ending up in uncharted territories has really helped him with his confidence. He is honestly on a different level than he was a few years ago. He was a great wrestler, just didn't realize it. Now, he's getting booked on uncharted territory. He's having great technical exhibition matches with the likes of Wheeler Yuta and Jay Freddy. It's really been amazing to see, a guy that I know for years has been a great wrestler getting a shot in one of these double A or triple A indie promotions. And this match really showcases the hard work and dedication that he's been putting into the ring lately. Because him and Valor just had a killer match. And it was a surreal, wonderful match to see. Valor is one of the more underrated wrestlers in the area. He may not look like it, but if you put him in the ring with people, they end up looking really good. And they get better wrestling Vince Valor, and they get better wrestling Brandon Thurston. And this was a fantastic first introduction to the Fireheart Championship, which, once again, I shall remind people, is not made of fire, nor is it made of actual human hearts. Afterwards, what makes a great match even better? Giving Brandon Thurston a mic. Brandon Thurston cuts some of the most amazing fire promos that you will ever hear in a wrestling ring. As this enraged, angry man screams to the heavens that he is the best wrestler. He is the better wrestler of the two, and I will prove it because I want a rematch for that belt. And we're going to have a submission match. Yes, a submission match for the Fireheart Championship at Irresistible Forces. Yep. This is, the only reason it didn't happen at Midway Mayhem is because he needed to rip the limbs off of Wheeler Yuta at Uncharted Territories this past Wednesday. Okay, that's a fire match, a submission match. Submission matches are always cool, especially in an old school territory like Sherman, New York, which is in between the border of the Pennsylvania border and about only 15, 20, 25 miles away from Jamestown. So it's like in the halfway point. An old school submission match in a place that is as old school as Sherman is. What a buy. What a sell. And what a match that's going to potentially turn out to be. But again, that's a little bit of ways away. But overall, once again, I have really nothing really much to say about this match. Just the way that this match turns out and the way that these performers keep upping the stakes. It's always really fun to see. So after that, we had ourselves our slight cooldown match because we have DT, or Dave Bentley, facing off against the guy who interfered in the last match, Sebastian Braun. Well, Anthony Gaines was not particularly happy with that distraction because after a hard-hitting power versus power match, well, Sebastian Braun got interfered by Anthony Gaines. Anthony ran into the ring, interfered with Braun, distracted him, and DT, or Dave Bentley, won. Was a fun match. It was a nice cool down match after what had happened the prior two matches that had happened beforehand, but it also showcases Sebastian Braun's ability as a power wrestler. This was a power versus power match, and I was really, really liked it. It was old school. It was a Haas fight, but it was also modern in the way that it was presented. So, yeah, really fun match. Not a lot to say there. Again, if I don't really have a lot to say about a particular match, I think that should showcase how good it is as a particular match. So what happened next after that? Well, as a result of the Nasty Boys no-showing, To Infinity and Beyond were also booked on this show. That's the team of Colin Delaney and Cheech. And they faced off against the Divine Alliance, Johnny Puma and the Caesar, with John Kennedy, the dastardly heel manager of dastardly heel managers. This was a fantastic main event send-off for the Divine Alliance. See, To Infinity and Beyond won this match. That is no doubt. It's a babyface team with a former WWE wrestler. Of course, they're going to win against the Divine Alliance. But at the same time, this was also a very fun, exciting main event that really sent the fans home happy. Even more so, the ending. To Infinity and Beyond beat the Divine Alliance, of course, and Johnny Puma and the Caesar were none too happy with their manager, John Kennedy. And Caesar rolled into the ring after Kennedy had once again failed to secure victory for them, and, well, said two words that, Kennedy really didn't want to hear. We're done. They fired John Kennedy as their manager. The Divine Alliance, the terror that has stalked STW since its inception, has ended. And what a run they've had. Caesar and Johnny Puma running roughshod over the STW roster, winning the tag team championships, but yet being undone by a series of prove-it matches against a variety of legends. From being mauled to death by Snitsky to Caesar facing against an exorcism, a table-like exorcism of a clown. To Johnny Puma recently losing against Frankie Fevers. The losing and the stress of losing had gotten to the Divine Alliance. They thought it was Frankie Fevers was the problem, not their diabolical manager who kept going with his questionable game plans. But then they finally realized what the true problem was. They fired John Kennedy, and as he sat with his knees down and wondering just what heck had happened to him, as he stood in the middle of the ring, it was about to get a whole lot worse. Because, a certain Canadian anarchist, a certain disruptor of everything, chaos, a Wayward Cassidy with a steel chair arrives and promptly smacks him in the back with a chair. John Kennedy goes down. Cassidy walks in a crossface on Kennedy. And then at least half a dozen referees and security people have to pull him off of Kennedy. It was a surreal, spectacular moment and a perfect way to close out Take Me Out to the Brawl Game. What a segment. The tag match between To Infinity and Beyond the Divine Alliance was a fun spectacle. It was a great main event, but the post angle really elevated everything. Cassidy coming into the ring, decking Kennedy in the back with a chair, then putting him in a submission hold and trying to choke him out. The reaction from the crowd was this. Some were booing Cassidy, while others, like my mother, were literally cheering. She was cheering the entire segment because the dastardly manager who had interfered in so many matches was getting his comeuppance. And it was from one of the most unlikely individuals to do so. I get that they're trying to do the meta storyline with John Kennedy being part owner of Sovereignty Wrestling in real life. But at the same time, once again, you matched up a guy who is a dastardly diabolical heel with another guy who is technically a heel wrestler. See where I'm going at with that issue? It's a great segment. But where are you going with Cassidy? Are you trying to make him a babyface or you're trying to make him a top-line heel? We'll see where this goes from here, but once again, I'm interested and I'm invested in this angle, but you all know the pitfalls of these types of angles. Of these authority figure angles. Let's hope it works out for the best, and that's what I'm thinking of when it comes to this particular angle. To Infinity and Beyond made a great first impression. This is the first time they've ever been booked in Sovereignty Wrestling, and it was overall a great experience. So, that was Take Me Out to the Brawl Game, which is the second of the free shows that I will be talking about Sovereignty Wrestling on Fizzy's Wacky World of Wrestling. A card that was stronger than Gold Rush 2019, I would have to say. A card that was in a venue that was really, really nice. I like the Jamestown Ice Arena. It's a great venue. I just felt as though that this show at this venue, I was like, Allen Park, why have they not used Allen Park until now? I mean, I get it was a backup rain venue because of the thunderstorms and the downpour, but this was a fantastic venue to have a wrestling show in. It had the atmosphere of feeling like a wrestling venue. And it felt really nice. It was nice. It was comfortable. It was a great place to bring the family to see some wrestling. And overall, this show and the 8 matches that were within it were great to see. You had some good to great matches here. You had a phenomenal main event. You had a phenomenal singles match with Valor and Thurston. You had one of the best triple threat matches I've ever seen in Kenneth, Skyros, and Gaines. And it's not hyperbole. That was a fantastic match. It really brings people to be invested in this promotion, which I'm seeing a bit of a change in direction with this promotion. I think what they wanted this promotion to be was a pure Legends promotion with local regional wrestlers being booked. They wanted to draw the big legends, but the success that they're finding is as a promotion that is very similar in scope to a minor league baseball promotion, which is why it is fitting that this show is called Take Me Out to the Brawl Game. Because yes, there is an indoor ballpark at the Allen Park Ice Rink, so it still qualifies and there's also an outdoor ballpark at Allen Park, so it still fits. Baseball and pro wrestling have a little bit more in common than they think they do, because minor league baseball teams are well supported by the fans because people want to see those unknown prospects for themselves. They don't care if it's a big name. They want to see the names that may become those, prospects in a pro wrestling ring. Because the wrestler that you see at a local regional indie ring might end up becoming a wrestler who you might be seeing on a big stage sooner rather than later. And this show really showcased a lot of present potential and a lot of future potential. Because in my mind, the future is always uncertain. I always look at the present. In the present, it's looking really good. We've still got one more show to go on our Odyssey of STW shows. This was episode 61, Wayward Cassidy with a dash of Brawl Games. My name is William Fitzpatrick, and I thank you once again for joining me on this Odyssey of my local indie wrestling promotion, Southern Tier Wrestling. And overall, the next one up is Midway Mayhem 2019, a return once again to the fairgrounds of the Chautauqua County Fair. Oh, this is going to be really fun. But until then, I'll see you folks in a bit. And have a good day or night, folks, and I'll see you for the next edition of Wacky World of Wrestling. Bye!